The Sword and Shield in Monster Hunter Rise is the easiest weapon for a beginner to learn, period. This weapon isn't just easy to learn, it can do things that no other weapon in the game can do. This weapon is designed for high volume, low to medium damage attacks. It has a very mobile play style. You can even block attacks with the shield, so it has built-in safety features. You can attack the monster not just with your sword, but also with your shield to deal stun damage and knock the monster out. Another great feature of this weapon, you can use items without having to sheathe your weapon. This feature alone makes it the most convenient and versatile weapon of the bunch. And yes, this is the only weapon that can do this. The thing I love about Sword and Shield is there's not a lot of wacky gameplay mechanics built into the weapon that most other weapons have. So overall, it's easier to understand the Sword and Shield in its entirety than it is to completely understand any of the other weapons. It's also very powerful to get started with in the game, and your path to mastery is a lot shorter than any other weapon in the game. It's a seriously underrated weapon, and in the hands of a master can do amazing things. So what I'm going to do is show you the basics of what this weapon has to offer and give you enough information to get you started and moving in the right direction. With Sword and Shield, you're going to start out with 2 switch skills. The first one is called Falling Shadow. This move gives you great mobility, and it allows you to access weak spots that might otherwise be out of reach of your basic attacks. You can also build up some great stun damage with it too, if you follow it up with the Falling Bash. Check it out. So what does Falling Shadow do? It uses a wire bug to launch you at your target, hits the target, and then shoots you straight up into the air. While you're up there, if you don't press any buttons, you're just going to fall straight back down. So what you want to do while you're up there is press one of 2 buttons. Okay, you can do the Falling Bash, which gives you 2 big shield hits, or you can do just a plain old jumping slash, and you get 1 hit. That one kind of sucks. The nice thing about Falling Bash is it boosts you up in the air a little bit, so you can time this just right to get some serious hang time. It gives you the flexibility with timing the attack. It can give you some extra hang time to avoid an attack or just adjust the timing a bit to hit more accurately. The other switch skill you're going to start out with is called Windmill. And this move does multiple attacks and has a big finisher. So you want to get in close to the monster when you perform it so you can get that finisher off. Notice something about this move. It has lots of hits and it has iframes, invincibility frames, at the beginning of the move. So you want to time this so that you start it to almost counter an incoming attack. So make sure your timing is right. If you do this too early, incoming attacks will interrupt it. Early in the game, this is a very powerful move to use. I recommend practicing the iframe timing as soon as you can because that timing is a gameplay skill that becomes more important as you progress through the game, and you can transfer that skill to other weapons too. Sword and Shield starts you out with a single counter, and it's called Guard Slash. Get the timing just right, and you can counter almost any attack in the game. This move is more effective the more points of guard you have in your armor. Weaker attacks are fairly easy to counter with a Guard Slash. I'd say this move is the most underrated of all the Sword and Shield moves. It used to be hard to pull off, so most people ignored it. Most of the videos you'll see out there just dismiss it outright. Capcom has adjusted the timings on it, so it's a lot easier to perform a Guard Slash now. But very few people have realized this, and almost no one has gone back to trying it again and seeing how effective it really is. This move is a great alternative to just simply blocking. If you use it to counter the smaller attacks from the face, you can quickly build up stun damage on the monster. What exactly does this Guard Slash do? When you perform a successful Guard Slash counter, it will pull you toward the monster and automatically perform a shield bash to the face, doing stun damage. So when you do a successful Guard Slash, you'll do a shield bash automatically, and you can follow it up with a perfect rush, but they're two different forms. One of them will leap first, and the other one just gets right to it. So you can close the distance a little bit, or you can just get right to slashing. You'll also start the game with a special evade. This one is called the backstep. There are two ways to activate the backstep: after an attack or after a guard. This move is awesome. It has incredible iframes on it. You can backstep through most attacks. Do not underestimate the power of the backstep. This is a key skill to learn for mastery of the weapon and to gain near invincibility. After a backstep, you can follow it up several different ways. By default, you're just going to lunge forward again. You can also hold down the button to do a charge slash and lunge forward again. But you can also interrupt the back hop and stay back. And you do that by just pulling back and attacking again. You can even just keep chaining these combos together to keep back hopping and attacking. Back hop will also get you into a perfect rush. If you want to stay grounded, use an advancing slash. If you want to go aerial, use a charged attack. If you want the big move, use the perfect rush. And again, if you want to cancel it, pull back and attack. You'll also start the game with a special combo, perfect rush. A lot of people will tell you that perfect rush is a high commitment move. What they mean by that is, once you start doing it, it's really hard to stop, and therefore you're vulnerable to monster attacks. Now, the way they understand perfect rush, that might be true, but nothing could be further from the truth when it comes to how perfect rush actually works. People believe it's high commitment because they have a tendency to button mash when they do a perfect rush. And I'll admit, I did too when I first started using it. It's hard to avoid because there's so many hits on it. And it just seems like, yeah, I'm just going to spam buttons and do a bunch of hits. But despite there being so many hits, you only have to hit the attack button 3 times during the perfect rush. I'll do it slowly so you can see the timing. Your character will actually pause when it's waiting for an input from you. So you do have some flexibility on when to go to the next stage of the perfect rush. If you just spam buttons, yeah, you're going to do it as fast as you can, but you only have to hit the button 3 times. Watch this. See, the character will pause and wait for you. If you pause too long and don't press an attack button, you're just going to stop. It'll interrupt the combo. So you do not have to spam buttons here. If you are spamming the attack button, then yeah, it's high commitment because you made it high commitment. There's nothing inherently high commitment about a perfect rush. And I'll prove it to you. I just rolled out of it because I didn't spam buttons. See that? Easy. I can roll out of it at any one of these 3 points. How is that move any more high commitment than any other move in the game? It's not. I can roll out of it there, or I can finish it and go high into the air and get a double shield bash. Now, I don't even have to finish it with that final aerial move. I can finish it with a spinning reaper. Check this out. I don't even have to go aerial, but I can get my big spinning reaper finisher. So yeah, this is not high commitment. It's only high commitment if you spam buttons. It's only high commitment if you don't know what you're doing. But then again, you could say that about any attack for any weapon in the game. Perfect rush is awesome when the monster is incapacitated, or those times when he's just deciding to stand around, or just whenever you want to. Just be aware that, yeah, you can interrupt it by evading, or instead of going aerial, use the spinning reaper. It's a great move. All right, so I talked about the special moves that you start out with. I wanted to start there because I wanted you to get excited about the cool stuff that the weapon has to offer right from the beginning. You don't have to unlock these moves. Everyone starts with these moves in the game, so start using them from the beginning. But you do have basic moves, so let's check those out too. You've got a sword attack combo, a shield attack combo, and the charged attack, which we saw a little bit of. You've got a couple different sword attack combos. You got a quick attack with a little step. It does a little bit of stun damage. You've got a big sword attack with a finisher. And then you've got a shield combo. The shield combo you have to activate by pressing forward and attacking. All right. If you just stand still and press your attack buttons, you're going to do sword attacks, one or the other. To start the shield combo, you have to press forward and do your attacks. And you can stand here all day attacking with your shield. You can even back hop and just keep chaining these attacks. You can also do a finisher, and that's going to be both attack buttons. That's your spinning reaper. That ends the combo, so you can't chain anything after the spinning reaper. Once you do your spinning reaper, evade and start attacking again. The spinning reaper is nice because look at the damage output on it. It's huge. So you've got a couple different sword combos, different shield combos. The nice thing about the shield attacks, and the reason why a lot of people love these and recommend them, is because shield attacks do not use up sharpness. And they still do quite a bit of damage. And they do stun damage, so you get the KOs on the monsters. Shield bashes are a great option at any point in the game. So with regard to sharpness, since this is a melee weapon, whenever you attack the monster with your sword, you lose some sharpness. It dulls your blade. You've got a sharpness meter up there in the left corner, and the more blade attacks you use, the more sharpness you use up. You see the different colors up there? Those are damage modifiers. The blue that you see is a pretty high damage modifier. Green's pretty normal. Once you get down to yellow and orange and red, you're actually losing damage. It's like a negative modifier. So you want to keep your sharpness up simply by sharpening with the whetstone. And watch this. I'm going to shield attack, and look what happens to my sharpness. It's not using up any sharpness at all. You got some big numbers here. The first one is kind of small. The second two are big enough, but more importantly, look at the KO damage, and he's knocked out again. So that's the beauty of the shield. Yeah, you're going to get bigger numbers with a sword, and a little bit bigger, and more importantly, the spinning reaper finisher. So a nice combo to use is shield combo, spinning reaper, and you can stand right in place and do this over and over again. The last big basic move I want to show you is the charged attack. We looked at that a little earlier. You do a back hop, hold down your attack button. It's going to charge up your attack, leap you forward, do a big hit, do a scaling slash, and give you some aerial ability. This is like a mini perfect rush. That's what I would call this, charged attack. And if you miss, it's not going to shoot you into the air. So that charged attack can be useful when you don't have enough time to do a full perfect rush. Now, there are a lot of different ways that you can combine all these moves that I just showed you. And so if your character does something crazy at some point, that's because you just discovered a new combo. And that's okay. You're going to do that a lot. It's not possible for me to cover all of the different combos in this introductory video. If you never get anything else from the game for using sword and shield, this is plenty enough to dominate all the monsters in the game until the very end. These moves are awesome, but there's plenty more to come, and you got some cool stuff ahead too. When you complete your village 3-star urgent quest, you're going to get an attack called Sliding Slash. This move gives you a more mobile play style for sword and shield, and it makes it easier for you to get in some aerial attacks. You can also use it to slide underneath certain attacks. It's pretty cool. Check this out. That's pretty awesome. Now, if your sliding attack ends up hitting, it's going to do your scaling slash and allow you to do a falling bash. Otherwise, it's just going to do an attack like that and let you get started on chaining some combos. So it lets you cover some distance pretty quickly, and it also gives you another way. Let's say you used up all your wire bugs on Falling Shadow. It's going to give you another way to just get mobile a lot. This is pretty useful for some monsters because their hit zones are higher, or it's just better to be in the air than not when you're fighting them. I'm loving this, just sliding underneath attacks. It's just a crazy action hero kind of move, as long as you can time it right. You can say that about anything, right? As long as you time it right, it's awesome. After you craft 8 different sword and shields, 8 different weapons, upgrades, new crafting, whatever, craft 8 sword and shields, it's going to unlock a move called Drill Slash. Drill Slash is primarily used for elemental attacks. It replaces your shield bash combo. You get 1 shield bash and you're getting multiple hits. You get a lot of hits on this. And people love to use this for elemental sword and shield because the game tells you to. It's going to boost the amount of elemental damage that you do with this attack. Pretty nice for elemental playstyles. And if you just want to punish the monster, thing about it is it consumes a lot of sharpness. So be aware of that when you choose to use this. Let's check that out. And this is because you're doing, looks like 5 different hits. That's crazy. Yeah, it's doing 5 hits. See, that second drill slash attack does multiple hits. So it's going to eat your sharpness up quite a bit. There are some skills to prevent you from losing all that sharpness, which we'll get to in a minute. The last move you're going to get is, in many people's eyes, the best move you have. And if it's not the best move you have, it's the coolest move you have for sure. It's called the Metsu Shoryugeki. It's the dragon uppercut. You're not going to get this until you do a specific 4-star high rank quest. So you're going to have to do all the low rank quests with everything I talked about up to this point. You're not getting the Metsu until high rank. But once you do, let's check it out. It's pretty cool. If nothing else, it looks awesome. Metsu is going to use 2 wire bugs. I've got my wire bugs set to infinite use in the training area, so you can't see how many are consumed. And Metsu is a couple different things. It's a counter for sure, but it's also what's called a guard point. If you just do the Metsu on its own, you'll see you drop down into a crouch, you put your shield up, and then you do an uppercut attack. And then on the way down, you have the option to do a falling bash. So this one's a little complicated, and I won't spend too much time on it, but there are 3 parts to it. There is a guard point and a counter on this. So the guard point is right there. When you crouch down, you automatically block with your shield. That's the definition of a guard point. You perform a move which has a few animation frames of you blocking with your shield. If you time this just right so that that attack hits your guard point, it's going to perform the counter, and you see all these extra hits. These hits not only do damage, but they do stun damage. So the Metsu is very powerful. You can counter almost any incoming attack with it. You can do bonus damage when you hit that counter, and you're doing stun damage on the way up. You can follow it up with that falling bash to do even more stun damage. So the Metsu is amazing for KOing monsters. It's also amazing for big damage. The higher you get in the game, the stronger this attack is. It's also nice to combine it with a skill called Offensive Guard, which I'll mention later. Offensive Guard will boost your attack power whenever you time your block just right. I've got a whole video on Offensive Guard and using it with Metsu. Check that one out. The timing on this is not as difficult as you might think. Practice it here in the training area and you'll be an expert in no time. If you don't want to keep KOing the monster, but you want to be able to practice it, just back up like this and just Metsu the balls. You won't get all that damage, but it doesn't matter. As long as you can trigger that Metsu, you're fine. The timing's the same. That's probably the best way to practice Metsu. Just back up here and try to hit the ball. You'll see the big blue splash. That means you timed it correctly. Pretty cool move. That covers all the moves you have for Sword and Shield. There are some combos that I didn't demonstrate that you will find out on your own. And so I encourage you to experiment with different button presses and trying different things at different times. It's very rewarding when you discover something new about the weapon. So what weapons should you be using? Big question. Almost everybody asks this question. What Sword and Shield should I build? What's the best weapon in the game? I'm just going to caution you right up front. Don't get stuck in that mode of thinking. Don't get stuck in the meta trap. Whether it's which moves to use, which weapons to choose, what's the best way to play the game? Don't fall for it. The best way to play the game is the way that you are having the most fun with. All the weapons in the game have their advantages over the others. All the moves for this weapon have a place. The best way for you to clear your quests faster or easier or to be safer, to take less damage, is for you to learn everything that your weapon has to offer. All that said, if you just want me to tell you which weapon to use, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that when you unlock it, use the Nargacuga Sword and Shield as soon as you can and just stick with it. Keep upgrading it. If you have the Defender weapons available to you, use those instead. They're extremely powerful and they're designed for you to get through low rank and high rank quickly. They gave them to us on PC and Switch when Sunbreak launched, so that if anyone is still playing the low and high rank stuff, the base game, this will make it a lot easier for them to get through it. See, the damage is just off the charts. It's crazy. But the Narg weaponry, I like it because you get access to white sharpness really early on, plus you get that high affinity. And so I love it. There are other weapons in the game that have the element. If you want to use an elemental weapon, they're all really good choices. Some of them stand out more than others, like Rathalos. This is one of my favorite going back throughout the history of the game. And then the Raytheon, when you get there, has poison damage, which has a lot of advantages that I won't go into in this video. Look for another one of my videos on the different weapon breakdowns and what are good choices for different scenarios. But you're not going to go wrong with any of these weapons. If you just need me to tell you what to do, I'm going to tell you to use the Narg weapon. Someone else will tell you to use a different weapon. That's fine too. If you're the kind of person who needs someone to tell them what to do, the Rampage weapon is really nice. Once you get that high into the game, you can customize it in different ways, and that's really cool too. I love these para and sleep weapons. Sword and Shield's great for applying sleep and para. Just some really cool stuff in here. So my advice to you is pick the weapon that looks cool and that you have fun with. That's the best choice you can make, and you won't regret that choice. I will give you some direction to go in with armor skills, things that tend to work really well with Sword and Shield, and that can allow you to have a lot more fun with the weapon. I mentioned offensive guard already. This one gives you more attack power if you time your guard just right. And so you can trigger it when you do the Metsu. You can trigger it just blocking, and that's fine too. You have to block at the last second though. You can't just stand there and hold your shield up and wait for the attack to come in. It's not going to trigger offensive guard. You've got to pull the trigger, so to speak, right before the attack hits you, and you're going to trigger offensive guard. I have an entire video on that. Check that one out. Slugger is a nice fun skill to have because this makes your attacks do more KO damage, more stun damage. So you get more KOs, you get them faster. It's pretty fun. Weakness exploit and critical boost. These skills I recommend for every weapon, every scenario. If you can get these two, both of these two up to level 3, do it. If you have to sacrifice a little bit, especially in low rank, you're not going to see a lot of these skills in low rank. So don't worry about it. Once you get up into high rank and get some of the more advanced armor sets, look for weakness exploit and critical boost. Guard up. This skill is going to allow you to block some attacks that you normally can't block without it. So some of the really big breath attacks, for example, you just hold that shield down and it'll save your ass. Then there's the skill called guard, and this has up to 5 levels of guard. What this does is it makes it so that when you block an attack, there's less recoil, so to speak. There's less of a reaction in your animation, so you can stand your ground better and you can chain combos after the guard. You can get back into the fight quicker. Without any guard on your build, when you block most attacks, you're going to get pushed way back. It's going to also will allow you to use guard slash against more attacks. Another nice skill to have is protective polish or master's touch. These two skills preserve the sharpness on your weapon. Since Sword and Shield has a lot of attacks that eats through your sharpness pretty quickly, as soon as you can get one of these, definitely get it. Attack boost is good for all weapons almost all the time. Speed sharpening is great. So speed sharpen makes the sharpening animation a lot shorter. If you can get this up to level 3, it's just one stroke of the whetstone and you're back in action. With Sword and Shield, where do you attack the monster? The answer to this question is the same for most weapons. And the answer to this question lies in Hunter's Notes, large monsters. You go in here and you select your monster and you go over to physiology, and you're going to see the different parts of the monster that you can attack. You want to attack the monster part that has the highest number. For this particular monster, that's the head. And you see the sword up there, a hammer, what looks like some ammo, a bullet casing, and then different element. You're looking at the sword column. When monsters get enraged or when they have a status change of some sort, the weak spots will change. So where do you attack? For most monsters, it's the head. As you can see, it's almost always the head. And that's the cool thing about Sword and Shield. Do those shield bashes for not only the highest damage, but also the stun damage, because you're only going to get stun damage on the head. Now, the most important thing for you to learn, the most important skill for you to learn in this game is not any particular weapon attack or any particular aspect of the game, whether it's sharpness or particular move or a particular weak spot. The number one thing for you to learn is how to read the monsters, or just learning to read the monsters. Every attack that a monster does has a tell. They do a little twitch or a little move or a little head shake or something every single time before they attack you. And so once you get those memorized, once you get those learned, you'll be able to anticipate every single move that the monster's going to make and where it's going to go. So take your time Pay attention to the monster's body language, predict what he's going to do next, and react accordingly. In this video, I've covered most of what the weapon has to offer, but there are several more interesting combos and techniques left for you to discover. Come join our Discord. It's filled with experts on every weapon and players on every platform. You're not going to get chastised for asking stupid questions. You're more likely to get a ton of answers to all the stupid questions that you have. We're very welcoming of all different types of people, all different types of play styles. The number one and most important thing about this Discord and the value that everyone on this Discord shares is that as long as you're having fun, you're doing it right. This YouTube channel is growing rapidly. I have over 100 videos on all aspects of Monster Hunter Rise with a strong focus on the bow, but I'm branching out to other weapons now. So subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, check out my beginner's guide to Monster Hunter Rise. It covers all the most important aspects of the game to get you started on your journey. Any questions, head to the Discord, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.